Hello and welcome to Charter Local Edition Northwest. I'm Dana Cowley and my guest today is Ben Cannon, and he's here to enlighten us about the different changes happening in the state of Oregon in higher education. Thanks for joining us, Ben.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us about your role with the state and how it will benefit our students.
Great. So I'm the Executive Director of the state's Higher Education Commission. We're a state agency led by a commission that works with our public universities, our community colleges, our student aid and access programs to try to create a system of higher education in Oregon that leads to more certificates, degrees, and opportunities for good paying jobs for Oregonians. So we're a coordinating commission. We try to ensure that work that students do at a community college, for example, will transfer to a university, that students coming out of K-12 have great options for affordable access to community colleges or universities, and that the system is a good return on taxpayer investment. So we're taking state resources and finding ways to invest in our colleges and universities that really pay those back in the form of well-educated Oregonians who are qualified to do the kind of work that our state needs.
Well, you touched on a couple of things that have been obstacles in Oregon and nationwide. It can be frustrating and disheartening for students in junior college to not have their credits accepted, and then of course trying to find affordable education. So really, what in your capacity can you do about such big issues?
Well, there are a few things. I mean, one is the question of state investment itself. Part of the reason why tuition has increased at all of our institutions is the fact that public investments really haven't kept up with even inflation in higher education. So as a result, students are having to bear more of the brunt. And so where it used to be possible for a student working part-time to essentially pay their way through a college or a university, that's no longer true today, of course. And to a very significant extent, that's because we aren't putting as much public funding in. And so our agency and our commission is working with our legislature. We got big increases this legislative session, an 18% increase in state funding for community colleges,
Huge.
A 25% increase in state funding for public universities. So helping ensure that there's more public money going in to keep that tuition price down. But equally importantly, we're trying to create incentives and supports for our colleges and universities to ensure that those students, once they enroll, succeed. Because the worst case is a student who pays the tuition, takes out the debt, figures out a way to cover their cost of living, but then struggles to succeed and drops out before earning a certificate or degree or gaining the experience they need to get a job in the workplace. And that's what we...
That's heartbreaking, and that accounts for about half of the people who start college.
Yeah, it's really disheartening, the very large percentages, especially at our community colleges, but at some of our universities too, who are starting and not completing. And there are a lot of reasons for that. Affordability is one of them. We have to provide supports for our institutions and engage in communities to really wrap around students the kind of counseling, mentoring, coaching, and financial support to ensure that if they're there, they are given a real shot at succeeding. Because too many, it's the first time the transmission breaks on the car or there's a child care need they can't cover, they're out. They're not going to get the degree. They're not going to, as a result, be likely to improve their income as a result of a better job. So we're working with the institutions and with the legislature to try to apply funding directly to those kinds of programs and possibilities.
Well, and then there are the students that they get to college and they manage to survive these things we just discussed, and they're going on, but then they get out and find that they can't find a job or find a livable wage with the college degree, finding more living wage jobs in the technical arenas. What are you doing for those people?
Yeah, so that we see, we work closely with our employment department and with our workforce boards to understand where there are workforce needs and opportunities. And then we're taking state dollars and trying to invest them directly into the types of programs at our colleges and universities that produce those kinds of workers. And so that helps to match the state investment with where the labor market need is and where students will actually find jobs. That said, it's very hard to predict the economy of the future. And I think about my own 8-year-old daughter and think, well, I want her to be well-educated citizen, prepared to do work in a variety of fields. So get her a great education, solidly grounded in the fundamentals. But particularly when we're talking about older students, returning adults, you want to know that investment, because for many students and families it is a significant investment, that investment is likely to pay off in a job. And so taking state dollars, providing the support, the incentives to the colleges and universities to create the programs or expand the programs in the health fields, in the trades, in other career and technical education that really is most likely to pay off in terms of a job. We think that's pretty important.
And one last question, and I'm thinking of my high school age daughters. If you can speak to your high school students out there right now, what's the key piece of advice that you would give them?
Yeah, I would say the number one thing is that unlike the economy of their parents or grandparents, most living wage jobs today do require some form of post-secondary education. That doesn't necessarily mean a 4-year degree. And so it would be a mistake to think that you have to go to the University of Oregon, Oregon State, and get a bachelor's degree. But it will probably require some form of post-secondary education. Your community college is a great option. There are career and technical programs at all of our community colleges that are accessible to students from many walks of life. And they're an investment. We're trying to help with that. We're trying to bring down the cost. We're trying to create more access, reduce the tuition. But it's still an investment, but it's almost certain to pay off because the failure to get a post-secondary education of any sort makes life pretty hard.
And thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
I appreciate this. This is Ben Cannon. You're watching Charter Local Edition Northwest, and I'm Dana Cowley.